Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. In this one, guys, what else is there to talk about but this amazing postseason that's got some very epic moments? You've got upsets going on here in the MLB. You've got the Mets no longer metting, but they are metting. You know, it's a new term for the word Met.
We're giving a new meaning to all of it.
We're giving a new meaning because that's what happens to the postseason. Phillies are out. You've got some teams going into Game 4, Game 5. We're going to talk about all that. And as well, a hurricane hit the Trop, and it looks like the Rays might need a new stadium sooner rather than later. We're going to talk about that and everything around baseball. Before we get into it, Nick, how you doing today on this Thursday?
Listen, I'm doing good because, I mean, we are both located in Toronto where the weather is, effectively just as tame as it comes.
This is what we discovered last night when we were with our American viewers.
Literally. We're live for the game. We're talking to the American viewers. I'm hearing all about how in America, I mean, it's hurricanes, it's tornadoes, it's everything.
Disaster.
Occasionally over here we get the bad, blizzard or snowstorm or something like that, but not nearly to the same extent of what is going on right now for those dealing with the hurricane. So before we get into all of it, obviously thoughts and prayers go out to every single person that is affected right now by Hurricane Milton. It was crazy. It was wild. I think it's on the tail end of things at this point.
I think it's out.
So now it's kind of like recovery, but just crazy stuff there. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Tropicana Field, I know that you were saying that, well, it might be time to, get some repairs sooner rather than later. I think we could both agree that they've needed some for a long time, but now they really need them, everyone.
That roof, I can't even count how many kind of panels that there are. It's like this fabric cloth. It's like the weirdest roof you've ever seen.
Right.
But it is completely shredded. There's maybe 6 panels left. Probably 85% of it is completely ripped off. There's this helicopter view of the stadium, and it looks like a disaster. There's videos going around the internet of people inside the stadium.
Yeah.
And it looks like a complete hellhole. And honestly, again, totally disastrous moment for, all the state of Florida dealing with this. But this might be a blessing in disguise for 2 reasons. A, yes, they need a new stadium. But B, that roof was hell to play at.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, any pop fly in the outfield in the Trop, it's like you're trying to catch this baseball off of a roof that's the same color as the baseball.
Yeah.
You're going to lose the baseball. And it happened way too many times. So, honestly, maybe rip off the rest of those panels and get a black roof. What would even be better? Anything's better than what it currently was.
Anything is better. Well, and I think we also just learned too that this roof clearly was not doing its roof job very effectively. I'm kind of surprised looking at it. I mean, we're talking about fucking fabric right here.
It looks like fabric.
How did it
bro.
make it this long? This
in Florida too, where they've had hurricanes.
Oh, of course
before.
they have. Of course they've had hurricanes before. I know that Hurricane Milton was at the the pinnacle of wind speed and all that shit. But yeah, it tore it to shreds, everybody. Maybe kind of a metaphor for the season that was the Tampa Bay Rays. Honestly, a lot of could tear up a lot of different stadiums with the way that things did.
The Rogers Center.
But you know what? Maybe, like you're saying, blessing in disguise, because they were due for a renovation at some point. Now your hand is forced.
Yeah. They were gonna move the stadium somewhere, but I mean, you could still do that, but I don't think you have the money to do that. Let's be honest. Where are you gonna get the money to move your stadium? I think just fix your roof, man. Fix your roof. I mean, yeah. Are you really in Tampa Bay? No, you're in St. Petersburg. But you can't get any closer. So I just renovate the roof. That was the biggest problem for me. I hated that roof.
No, it was truly terrible. So it goes away with the hurricane. Once again, thoughts out to everybody who's currently being affected by that. I hope that the recovery over there in Tampa and in Florida and everything like that is a swift one. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm reading all the details of what ripped off the roof. 115 miles per hour. I ripped off the roof.
Winds?
That's
crazy, dude. That's crazy. Well, speaking of 115 mile per hour just bombs, we saw some big ones last night from the New York Mets.
That's actually not too far off.
No, it's not. I know it's not. Yeah. Frankie Lindor hit an absolute moonshot off of a grand slam, folks. 4 runs come around. Philly season done. Mets moving on to the NLCS. Did we see this coming?
I didn't. I predicted that the Phillies would put up a better fight than this, man. I mean, they lost the series 3-1. That's just not good, and they only scored 1 run in this one. I believe that the night before, they only scored 2 in the one before that. They were putting up some fights in the early part of this series, but the offense, which is the big part of this Phillies team, just went quiet. The Mets pitching has just been phenomenal. I mean, Peterson last night, phenomenal. Hasn't given up a run this postseason. That is huge for the Mets. Then you had Manaea go yesterday.
Yeah.
He was dominant. He's had a dominant postseason, a dominant stretch into the second half of the regular season. And those were the 2 guys to shut the door on the Phillies. Who would have thought that those guys, to start the year would be the I don't want to say aces, but basically the aces of the Mets staff.
Listen, don't do Jose Quintana softly like that, because he's done
that's crazy too.
11 innings in the postseason so far, 0 earned runs.
Yeah, and that's crazy too. Like, they're getting such amazing performances from their guys. What did you expect this, Nick? I want to throw it back to you.
No, of course. Well,
this?
I mean, at one point in the season, these guys were dead in the water, right? Let's not forget that this was a team that was close to 10 games below 500, and now they are in the semifinals of MLB, right? They're in the NLCS, and they're going to see who they end up playing, whether it be the Padres or the Dodgers. Either one, though, I mean, yeah, the Padres are pretty hot, and the Dodgers have an incredible lineup. But the Mets are just as hot as anyone. And at this point, now that they are in this position, a team that was almost 10 games below 500 at one point, well, now you have just as good a shot as literally any remaining team to win this whole damn thing. So, no, I definitely did not expect this from them. They are surpassing all expectations for me at this point. And credit where credit is due, right? You look at that lineup in Pete Alonso and Frankie Lindor. I remember when we were getting on the New York Mets after they made the big move to acquire Lindor and give him all the money, and it was the first season and a half of Lindor in New York was kind of
it was really mid. It was mid. It wasn't worth 300 or whatever hell he's getting paid.
No, it absolutely was not. But they're players that they have built their team around. Their core guys are showing up in the biggest possible way. Obviously, Lindor had the massive shot yesterday, which gave them the league. But Pete fucking Alonso, I mean, he is going to get absolutely paid this offseason. I mean, he was already going to get paid an incredible amount, because Pete Alonso's career has been top tier, right? The floor of Pete Alonso is he's going to hit 30 bombs. The ceiling is all hit 55. But now that you're showing every single person around baseball that hey, I'm performing the best in these critical moments, in these clutch situations, in the postseason. I mean, your agent is going to just literally walk in with your fucking postseason slash line and be like, here, everybody, this is pretty good.
Maybe. I mean, it's 7 games.
Doesn't matter,
but
for me, it's a clutch standpoint. It's a clutch standpoint.
For me, it just confirms what I already knew, and Pete Alonso's a great hitter. For me, that 7 games doesn't really change a price tag for me.
Listen, I don't think it changes a whole lot. I think that it's just another additional fuel for Pete Alonso to be I can do this.
Yeah, that's what it's for me. It's confirming the already price tag of $29 million that he's getting projected to get paid.
He's right now getting a market value of $29 million. Yeah. But look, if you keep doing what you're doing and you put up this incredible postseason, I mean, it's certainly not going to fucking hurt.
No, exactly. It wouldn't hurt. So Mets are moving on to the NLCS. I want to talk about the Phillies, but before we do, I want to kind of compare them and how we're stacking up against maybe the Dodgers, maybe the Padres. We're going to find out tomorrow, everybody, who's going to be moving on in that to the NLCS to face these Mets. Are the Mets the favorite over any of those teams because of the momentum that they've had going into this NLCS?
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a factor for sure. The one thing that I don't love actually is when a team sits for a little while. It's looking right now. We'll see what happens between the Padres and the Dodgers. But if the Padres do win, then that's both teams that got the bye in the National League that are out immediately. And I do think that there's something to be said about that. Now, for the Mets, you're going to get a little bit of time to rest your starters and stuff like that, whereas the Padres and or Dodgers are going to have that one additional game.
You can reset.
So, potentially that is a factor that needs to be considered right there. I think that all of these teams, though, are pretty tight in terms of the way that I'm looking at them. Like, the Dodgers might be just a slight tier below because, again, I'm still not convinced on that pitching staff. But when you drop, 8 to 9 to 10 runs an evening, it really doesn't fucking matter.
And shut out the Padres with no starter.
With literally no starter, that's the thing, right? Like yesterday, that's exactly what they did. And, all of our biases about how their pitching staff is not very good, I mean, you can throw that out the window because the bullpen was the literal Cy Young level.
The bullpen is literally their own starter now.
Yeah.
And it is. And, I mean, we'll talk about the Detroit Tigers a little later, but they're doing the same strategy. They don't have, many starters, and they're doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It is working for now. Will that continue? We got to see. But, this is all these teams are in the same tier, it's, okay, maybe the Mets are a slight favorite because of the momentum, but the Padres are right there as well. It's whatever Pete Alonso can do, Fernando Tatis can just do better, right? It's like they have a long list of offensive players that are going crazy right now, and they have had some pitchers get beat up, but they've also had a couple other pitchers do really, really good too. So I like all of these National League teams. I like a lot. And I look over at the AL, it feels like it should be Yankees, whereas this National League, it could be any of them for me.
It could be anybody. Yeah, I've always had a slight bias towards these Padres the way they're playing right now. I mean, they're first in offensive categories across the board. They're killing it right now. And then Dodgers, the second, if you're not considering the Milwaukee Brewers, who are out of it right now, they're second in a lot of offensive categories. So it's going to be a slugfest no matter what when they go to the NLCS. And all the pitching staffs, I think every NL pitching staff is getting beat up right now because everyone's so offensively heavy. So for me, it's going to be a fun who can show up and hit a home run at the right time. You could go either way for me.
Man,
go either way.
Shout out to some of the I don't want to say no-name guys because that sounds rude, but Kyle Higashioka over there on the San Diego Padres. He's got 3 home runs in 6 games. He's got 5 RBIs. He's only batting .235, but he's got an OPS of 1.074 because the hits that he is getting are bombs. You look over at David Peralta. He was the one guy last night that was actually consistently getting on base, getting hits, doing stuff for the San Diego Padres. Nobody could bat him around, but it's not for him lack of trying.
Right.
He's got an OPS of 1.2 in only 4 games played. I can guarantee you that number is going to go up because after yesterday, he's going to be in the lineup, pretty consistently. So yeah, I mean, you'll actually look at some of these other players like Manny Machado's not doing a whole lot. Xander Bogaerts isn't doing a whole lot. The Padres are getting production from players that you would not expect. If they could get Luis Arias cooking and Bogaerts and Machado, and obviously move on to face the New York Mets, I like them a lot, but that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, it's a lot of ifs. And for on the Dodgers side of things, they won yesterday. Just as an example, I mean, he could even be out even longer. They won without Freddie Freeman.
Right.
And that's something that they needed to do, and their whole offense exploded last night. I mean, Mookie Betts has been starting to cook up recently, and that's very huge for them because he had that 0 for 22 stretch. He goes back-to-back games with a home run. That is so huge for them. Tommy Edman, I know the OPS isn't good, but you got this guy to be a defensive specialist, and you have Miguel Rojas injured right now. You're going to need Tommy Edman to fill in and do something with his bat, and he is doing that.
Yeah.
Teoscar Hernandez, Gavin Lux, people are starting to step up for these elites, right? Max Muncy's batting under 200. Ohtani's not really Ohtani's not Ohtaniing with an OPS of 771. You know what I mean? Ohtani's doing Ohtani things. He had a couple big hits last night for sure. But yeah, that's what it is in the postseason. Sometimes you just got to get the odd guy to step up.
I was never worried about this lineup regardless of Freddie Freeman being in or out, it's just it's such a deep lineup that in any given moment any one of these players could go insane. I mean, you talk about Gavin Lux, I know that he's not really developed into the player that everybody thought he would, but that was a top prospect at one point in time, you know what I mean? Max Muncy is obviously, when he can get it going at any given moment. I'm not worried about this lineup whatsoever. It's only ever going to be the pitching for me. And we know that Ohtani will, there's going to be a game that happens, assuming that they can make it further, that, Ohtani's just going to will that team to victory because that's just what he does. We saw something last night that's this is the spoken of shit that it's just kind of wild. Ohtani was at first base, and a ball gets sent to center field. And he
Yeah.
tags up and makes it look easy and just like runs into second base without even thinking twice. I think he came around to score, actually. I can't remember fully.
Actually.
I mean, like they scored a fuckload, so it's honestly very possible. But like that's the
he got thrown out of home. That was the umpire situation.
Yes, yeah, that's okay.
That was crazy too.
That was
guys.
actually wild. Not even his fault, really. Like you're supposed to score on that play.
It was a ground ball down the third base line, and it was fair. And the umpire threw out his arm to call it fair, and it hit off the umpire's arm, stopping the ball.
Yes.
Manny Machado picks it up and then throws it home. However, the third base coach did say stop.
Yeah.
And he was not even looking at it.
Yeah.
He just put his head to the ground and kept running. So, honestly, that was partly Ohtani's fault. He should have stopped, but it's Ohtani, so we forget about it.
Well, and it's also, I mean, like, that's just one of those situations where, I mean, like, that's a 1 out of 1,000 time because you score on that 999 other
you're not
times.
even thinking the stop sign's coming up.
That's
but
like, it's so abundantly clear, like, of course you score here.
Right.
Just a weird, funky situation. But, yeah, either way, Ohtani is still producing, even though like he's not necessarily hitting bombs or jacks all over the place.
Yeah, let's briefly talk about some of the moments in that game last night since we went live for it, and it was a very weird one because pre-game, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the upcoming box score, and I see Dylan Cease versus Brazier, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a bullpen day for the Dodgers and a game, season-saving game when they got Dylan Cease the race. Oh, okay, like let's go and let's shut it out, Padres. But the decision making to pitch Dylan Cease on 3 days rest is kind of questionable for me, and you could clearly tell like his arm wasn't there. And for me, it kind of shocks me why managers rush their guys back when they haven't done it in the regular season, and now they think, oh, now that you're more tired and more fatigued later on in the season, this makes sense. Even though it is more, you want your guy to come back around faster. I mean, clearly it showed like he wasn't ready to begin this game. And
no, I mean, like the Padres lost that game effectively, like inning 1, inning 2 type thing. Like
literally looking at the box score right now. Like, it was over.
It was over. Dylan Cease had no command. The Dodgers were threatening. The fact that he only gave up, I think 3 or 4 or something. 3 earned runs. That's kind of a blessing in disguise, because he could have given up a lot more. He only went 1.2 innings, and they pulled him at, I think, 38 pitches. Yeah. So, was it worth it? Of course not. I don't know, man. I get, like, part of me understands why you want to rush your guys back, because, again, like, Dylan Cease, when he's on, is great. And, the upside, on the flip side of things, the upside is, okay, Dylan Cease comes out, fires, 4 or 5 scoreless type thing,
right.
And you win the game,
right.
And then you don't have a game 5 and you get a bunch of rest, and everybody gets, good to go. So, like, I get the risk versus reward thing. I think it's really easy for us to go after the fact, because of course he didn't have it. He didn't have it, he didn't have anything. But I would have obviously been very interested to see what the other alternatives would have been. Like, if it's not going to be a Dylan Cease, what are you going to do? Like, who else was it? Was it going to be a bullpen day for you? Was there somebody else here that you could have thrown out? I guess they weighed all that and thought that Dylan Cease was the right option. Clearly, that wasn't the case, and now you got to deal with it.
Because Musgrove's on the IL, so they lose a starting spot in the postseason. So, for me, and again, I was a big hypocrite. I can admit when I was wrong. I was wrong about the Dodgers doing a bullpen day because I am, again, we'll talk about it later, but I am seeing what's going on with the Tigers too, and they're doing it. And they also have an off day tomorrow. And there is something to be said about having a good bullpen that is going to give every batter a different look every time they're up at the plate. Like, you're different. Like, I can't get adjusted to one pitch delivery, one arm angle, one arm slot, one lefty or righty. I have to now readjust it and get my eyes focused on this new pitcher. So if you do have a good bullpen, there is something to say about that, and it can be very beneficial. And obviously, it worked out.
Well, honestly, I mean, like I think that's kind of the new meta in MLB, right? Like, starters are going shorter and shorter and shorter. We've seen Tampa Bay Rays baseball where it's like
they've been doing it for years.
Yeah, like somebody goes 2-3 innings, another guy goes 2-3 innings. If you have the personnel,
if you have them,
you could argue that it's better than anything, right?
Yeah.
Like it's. It's really, really good, but yes, you do need to have the personnel. We are not fans of a team that have the personnel. Our team is Terrible.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that.
No, of course not. We could never do that. The Dodgers had the luxury of doing that. They unleashed that bullet. I imagine now, I think I was hearing on the broadcast yesterday that they're going to be deciding whether between it's Jack Flaherty or Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Right.
So, like, they're going to see. They might even be a situation, depending on how the game is going, where it's both of them.
That'd be smart,
You know, so maybe you could do that. You know, get one guy through the lineup one time, the other guy through the lineup one time, and then, like, hopefully, like, bridge that gap to the bullpen. We'll see if that's what they decide to do. But this one's going to Game 5. Will be played in L.A. Where are you at for this one?
Yeah, see, they've got, excuse me, my throat's kind of groggy today. They've got Yu Darvish going up on the bump, and he was very good in his first start. He was very, very solid. But again, I think it is also shorter rest. Whereas the Dodgers, you have Jack Flaherty coming up. He's going to be rested a little bit long if it's Jack Flaherty. I mean, for me, home field advantage is huge. You know, but, however, in this series, both teams have split both games in the other team's ballpark. So for me, I don't really think it matters. I want to still lean with the Padres because I felt like it was going to go to a Game 5 between this epic matchup. I want to say it's the Padres just because of how offensively good they've been. And yeah, sure, Dodgers did do well yesterday when missing Freddie, when missing Rojas. Can they do it again? We'll see. I am going to lean more Padres in this one for me.
That's fair, man. I'm going to go Dodgers here. Like, you know, I was thinking that the Padres were going to walk away with this thing, but I think you missed your opportunity. Your opportunity was when you had the bullpen day come up and you had, you know, your Walker Buehler and everything like that type thing. Like, you know, you had to – I think you needed to win yesterday, and you didn't get it done in your home ballpark. Now, advantage for me goes to the L.A. Dodgers, who are going to be, you know, a little bit more well-rested with their pitching and will have that home field advantage. So I think that they've weathered the storm of their pitching staff enough where now, you know, the advantage goes Dodgers.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it really could be anything. I'm wondering what the line scores are going to be. Probably favored Dodgers because the home field advantage.
Slightly. It's going to be very
slightly, but it's going to be very, very tight. Before we move on to the AL, I want to talk about those Phillies.
Right.
Our secondary team Phillies that we've been rooting for this year only got one postseason win. I've been seeing videos of, like, Phillies fans. You know how Phillies fans are after they lose in the playoffs and postseason. They are lost for words, except for this one woman who was, like, literally saying, sell everybody, get rid of everybody, fire everybody. And she went on to say, like, fire my boyfriend, fire that bartender. Like, she was going for everybody around her in her vicinity. Yeah, I mean, obviously, no, do not. I don't think you should fire everybody because the Phillies, they still got a chance to go and run it back next year. They got a lot of guys still coming back. They're missing a couple bullpen guys leaving the team. Like Carlos Estevez has been very good, actually. Spencer Turnbull and Jeff Hoffman are the only guys that are leaving in free agency next year. So they got a lot of the core personnel coming back for the Phillies. But still, overall, I mean, this was a World Series or bust year for the Phillies. Like,
sure.
There weren't so many teams that you could say that about. This was it. So, and to lose 3-1 in the NLDS after getting the bye, after winning the division, is just
it's a division
traumatizing.
Rival too,
and it's a division rival that outplayed you in the second half of the year and going to continue to in the postseason.
Well, you know, I got this article up right here, and it's kind of like breaking down and diagnosing everything that went wrong here. Talking also about, you know, what the the manager had to say about things, or the GM, excuse me. You know, just one of the lines I have here is that there's no other way to describe this campaign than it being a failure, and I do agree with that. Like, this is a major failure for the Philadelphia Phillies, right? Whenever you have a regular season as good as they did, and then, you know, you come out and you only win one game in the postseason, like, okay, like, what was all of this fucking shit for then, you know? Like, we did 162 games, we won the majority of them, and then, you know, the second that, like, it was actually time to, like, really come up clutch, nobody was capable of doing so. I mean, that is the nature of the postseason, and it's, you know, part of the reason that I hate the way that MLB postseason is structured.
Right.
Like, frankly, you know, I was actually thinking about this in the shower this morning. I was like, you know, what would be my ideal MLB postseason, you know, because I truly believe, like, you know, a 3-game series and a 5-game series type thing, it's not like,
you're not seeing the whole picture.
No, you're not seeing the whole picture of, like, what this team actually, like, it's not reflective of what this team is, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, an 11-game series. Now, this is never going to happen, but, like, I would love to see an 11-game series where, like, every starter gets to go twice. You know what I mean? It's like, so you get to see your whole rotation 2 times at least. Your ace, I guess, gets to go 3 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, maybe cut out the wild card game and just go division series, championship series, World Series. It's like 6 weeks. It's kind of similar, maybe a little bit longer than what it is right now. And then go 11-game series.
11.
But then if you win in 6, then you're waiting like a week for the maybe
you
the
would
next,
be. Yeah, but if you win in 6, like, screw that other team. How did you get here? Either way, that will never obviously happen.
No.
I think that would be a lot more reflective though of who who these teams truly are, because then you get to see everything.
Right.
Phillies didn't have that luxury. They had 5 games. They had to win 3 of them. They only won 1. I'm disappointed, man, because I was riding with them the whole year thinking that they were going to be my B team. If you've been a fan of this channel for a little while now, you know that I'm a big stan of Bryce Harper. I really think that when it's all said and done, I want to see that guy have a ring in in his mantle, but fuck, dude, like, time is it's starting to run out a little bit. I still think he's got time.
Yeah, he's only
clock
31.
Is ticking a bit.
Yeah, like, I thought he's much older just because he's been around the league for so long. He's still 31 years old. But yeah, like, this is an interesting stat, actually. I just read this as you were speaking. Including the NLDS, the Phillies went 51-51 for their last 102 games. That's just a 500 ball team right there. And Castellanos talked about it. He said, we started fantastic. We were the best team in baseball in the first half. Everybody and all the fans were saying, this is our year. This is our year. I don't know if it was expectations put on the pressure. I don't know. I could speculate. But one thing I know is that we didn't cross the finish line.
No.
They were a different team in the first half. I didn't even realize that. And then they ended off just being mid.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is actually crazy. And you think about the guys that are on that squad and, the pitchers that they have too, right? Like, how do you only go 500 with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola and,
Robert Suarez.
Yeah, right?
And that amazing lineup.
Like, how do you do that? Seriously. That's actually
shocking.
kind of hard to do. Now, I understand that your division is very, very difficult, and the New York Mets got hot, and Atlanta and all that stuff, but, like,
but still,
boys,
you're the Phillies. You won the division. What's
exactly.
going on?
Boys, we got to do better than that. This is a very disappointing season for the Philadelphia Phillies. There's no other way to put it. I think that you're still going to be okay. I think that you're still going to be a playoff team next year.
Yeah.
But, like, the window, it's definitely not getting longer. It's going to be getting shorter every single season that passes by. So I think that this offseason, and credit to the management, they've done a great job at doing this pretty much every year. But you got to continue to invest. You got to continue to invest. Bring back the bullpen guys that you're losing, or get somebody that's similar, and also find another way to add. Do whatever you can to give this team a shot at winning, because I think in this window, you've got to walk away with one chip.
And you know what? It's becoming more evident to me. You got to find a way to sustain winning throughout the entire year. Because clearly, I mean, every team right now in the postseason, I've said this before, but, like, I almost didn't want to believe it because I'm like, oh, it's just the Phillies and they're going to win. But every team who is having a better last stretch than you wins in the postseason. Every team, except for the Royals and Orioles. They're both kind of bad. But every team. And so you need to figure out how to be a playoff team in September. Because you weren't a playoff team in September.
Sorry, so you're talking about the teams that are hot in the
you got to find out how to be hot and stay good the whole way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes, of course. That's the magic formula. You know,
because it didn't matter. Like, they were a way better team than the Mets in the first half, but that really did not matter.
No, and that's part of why. Again, like, that's part of why I have a, I don't want to say hatred, but I dislike the playoffs as a whole, because like, overall of the 162 games, the Phillies were better. But yes, those first 2-3 months don't matter when it's all said and done.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't matter at all. They both made it to the postseason, and the Mets were better in the latter stretch of things.
Yeah.
So they walked away with it, man.
Yeah, like the regular season is showing how good you are over this long, gut-wrenching battle of a season. You have to have the stamina. You have to out-survive the rest of the teams. Like, this shows your overall, can I out-survive you and win more games over this long season? Playoffs is just who's hot.
That's
hot?
What it comes down to. Hot? Pete Alonso's hot. Frankie Lindor's hot. Vientos is hot, right? And clearly,
Manaea, Peterson.
Exactly, and those guys over the Phillies just weren't. So, things need to be done. I don't want to say that major changes need to be made because again, I still think that you're a very solid squad, and like whatever that chick was on that was saying like, oh, we gotta trade these guys far.
That's just Philadelphia fans.
Yeah, like
Let's be real.
that's somebody who's clearly very tilted, and I do understand that. I hope that now that she's had a good night's sleep, she's going to be thinking differently about that. I still think that everybody there, should retain their job and is very, very talented. I think that this offseason just needs to be more of the same for you. Like, stay busy, bring in some new people, acquire as much as you can, and like, let's run it back. And yeah, you're right, find a way to sustain that winning formula.
However, you do that. I don't know what the secret form conditioning.
If you knew what the secret formula was, you'd be getting paid millions of dollars to coach one of these organizations.
Yeah, exactly.
If you did know that,
exactly.
I think people are trying to figure that out. Every single year.
It's not like they don't have trainers in their, because I'm imagining. This is just my like horrible assumption. Like I don't really know. They're an older team. And they run out of gas.
I don't think there's not
exactly. I'm just assuming, but whereas like, the Mets are also a little bit older too.
Dodgers are old.
Dodgers are old.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't think there's anything to that, man. I think it's just like, again, I don't know either. But like they lost the electricity that was with that squad. Maybe the moment they just started getting a little fatigued. I don't know.
Maybe it was what Castellanos said, where maybe it was he was blaming the pressure. Did the pressure get to them?
Well,
how do you deal with that?
That's something that honestly, boys, like the way that you deal with that is you just, shut the hell up and get over it, like seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the difference between the good and the greats is like the people that can handle the pressure right now. Yeah. The New York Mets had the back up against the wall, for most of the season. Maybe there was no pressure at that point.
There's no pressure for the Mets. You've already exceeded your expectations, whereas the expectation for the Phillies are World Series.
Right.
And that's a lot of pressure. Whereas the Mets, it's like, go have fun, kids. Oh, my God. Grimace, Hawktua. Like, let's have fun. Like, that's why they're winning. They're having a good time.
Could be, everybody. Could be just a mentality thing. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below about all of that. Let's move over and talk a little bit about the New York Yankees right now as they are looking to potentially clinch a spot in the ALCS. Good news for the Yankees is that if they do make it to the ALCS, there ain't going to be any Astros there because the Detroit Tigers knocked them off, which is always the Yankees' kryptonite. So right now, I think everybody can agree the favorite in the American League is assuredly the New York Yankees. They have a clear path to make it to the World Series. They can do it. Do you think they're going to?
Again, they absolutely are the favorites, and rightfully so. They got the roster, they got the pedigree, they've got Juan Soto, they've got all their guys. But, like, if you're going – and, again, we're just assuming the Tigers are about to knock off the Cleveland Guardians. Like, that's another whole thing.
Well, we're going to wait and see.
We're going to wait and see. But, like, if they're matched up against the Tigers, like, there could be an argument for the Tigers to go knock them off. Because I'm trying to look it up right now. But the Tigers, again, like if I were looking over at the NL, like who's the hotter team in the last little bit? Is it the Yankees or the Tigers? Like I'm gonna look it up as we're speaking right now. But how could I go against the Tigers if they're just red hot going into this series against the Yankees? Like, is that crazy for me to think that like they can take down the Yankees?
No, of course that's not crazy, man. I mean, you will get maybe I don't know if it's longer sample size, but like. I don't know if that's crazy. I think that I keep going back and forth because I'm like, well, it's the Detroit fucking Tigers.
It's the Tigers.
But at the same point, like they have been the best team in baseball in the past, 2 months.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like, forget the name, forget the people that are on that team. Just look at the results. Like, the results keep coming for the Detroit Tigers. Again, they still need to finish their work.
Yeah.
They also have an opportunity to clean things up against the Cleveland Guardians and move on, which would be huge for that organization. This would be the first time that they go to the ALCS in over a decade, since 2013. So just absolutely massive for that organization. And, I mean, they're definitely my bandwagon team at this point. But I don't know, man. It's going to be tough.
Well, I'm looking at second half records right now. The Yankees are 36-28. And the Tigers are 39-26.
Right.
So they're a little bit hotter. So
Okay.
it's really not that much of a difference.
No, it's not. It's definitely not, man. And again, the New York Yankees, on paper, are assuredly the better squad. is the Detroit Tigers pitching going to be as good as it's been? Can they withstand the fatigue? Because that's how they're winning ball games right now. It's it's Tariq, Skubal, and boys
that's what it is.
Are putting together one hell of a run, shutting teams down. The Cleveland Guardians, who they're up against right now and who they are winning against, they put up 7 or 8 runs in the first game, shutting out the Detroit Tigers, winning like 7-0.
Right.
And then they've been shut out the following 2 games, and now they're down 2-1, and they can't seem to swing a bat to save their lives.
Everyone's crediting A.J. Hinch right now for his phenomenal managing. And he's doing the same thing that Dave Roberts just did last night with the Dodgers, where he's just throwing out starters. Openers, excuse me. He's just throwing out openers. He did it last night. They won the game. I'm grabbing the box score right here. They're literally just playing with their bullpen. That's all they're doing. So who they started yesterday. 1 second, I'm just grabbing it right here. So, I was bringing this up in the last podcast. I was like, who's this guy Herter that they keep playing out there? Who the hell is Herter? That's the guy that's coming in after the opener. They played Montero to open up the game. No earned runs, no hits, no walks. Great. Then they bring in Herter for 3 1/3, and he pitches a bulk part of that inning. Then they bring in Breesky, Gunter, Vest, and Holton. And that's another guy they brought in these opening roles. And they're shutting out the Guardians.
This is actually fucking crazy, folks. So right now you got Tariq Skubal, who's got 13 innings pitched in the postseason. The next guy has 5.
On the Detroit Tigers?
Correct. Yeah. So it's like you have somebody who's actually starting the games and doing stuff. It's like literally they have Tariq Skubal pitch.
Yeah.
And then it's just we're going to bullpen our way for the next 2 or 3 games until Tariq Skubal can pitch again. That's crazy stuff now that's going on with the Detroit Tigers. That does not seem like a sustainable and winning formula, but it is working right now.
Hey, A.J. Hinch, former Astros manager. I mean, this is definitely not a typical Astros team that he had in the past, but he's making it work, man. He's making it work, and it looks like they might throw out like Breesk. I don't even know how to say his name. Breesky? It almost sounds like Brewski. They might throw him out again and do another bullpen day in Game 4.
Game 4. Okay, well, I do think that this series is going to go to the Detroit Tigers because if they don't win Game 4, then they're going to put out Skubal in Game 5.
And that's game over.
And like the way that he is pitching right now, like this guy in 13 innings in the postseason, no earned runs, 14 strikeouts, a whip of 0.62. I know it's a small sample size, but like we also know who Tariq Skubal is. This is going to be the Cy Young, and he is at the height of his powers right now. Like there's no fatigue. It feels like as the season's gone on, he's actually been getting better and better and better. So I don't know, man. Like with him guaranteed to go in Game 5 because that's what they're obviously going to do. I think that this is serious advantage Tigers right now to move on.
And if the Tigers can win today against the Guardians,
then you can throw Tariq out for the Yankees,
1,
which it would be huge.
You're going to get Tariq at least
multiple
twice.
times, yeah.
And that's just going to be so dominant. That's going to be so dominant. The Yankees don't want that to happen.
No. I think seriously, like this would be a game changer if they can win Game 4, especially if the Yankees lose Game 4. Like that really levels the playing field for me, right? Because just the rest for these guys, the rest for all this bullpen, because that's the thing, right? Like you can't do this shit in the regular season because eventually it's going to catch up to you, and everybody's going to start getting hurt and tired and whatever. They do need the rest if this strategy is going to continue to work.
And that's the thing. They only pitch play ever 2 days in a row, and they get an off day. So like it kind of does work. It does. If you could just unload your bullpen for a 2-game series rest and then you're all loaded up again.
Yeah.
I think it might. That's why it might work.
This is why postseason baseball doesn't make sense because this is not indicative at all of what people do in the regular season.
That's what I'm saying. Regular season ball is completely different.
Completely different than the postseason baseball, which I don't personally agree with or like, but you know what? Play your game, Detroit. Do what you got to do to pick up wins.
This is how they do it. They do have a tough matchup, though. They're going to have their bullpen up against BB. Or Bybee, I don't really know how to say his name there. He was pretty good. He didn't really give up a run his last time out. And then over on the Yankees and Royals side of things, they've got Cole going today.
Okay.
Versus Michael Wacha. They both got roughed up their first time out, so it's going to be in Kansas City. Let's see if they can hold on.
Okay. Yeah. I do think that it does feel like if I had to bet my life on this, it might be a Game 4 win for both of these squads. Like, I think it's going to be Detroit, and I think it's going to be New York in the ALCS at this point.
Right.
And I know that's really easy for me to say now that they're both up a game.
Right.
But, I like those teams a bit better than I like Cleveland and I like Kansas City. Speaking of Gerrit Cole, a little bit of news involved right there, folks. Looking like he is going to be opting out of his contract with the New York Yankees. Now, if you're a Yankees fan and you're clicking on this, don't worry too much, because I do still believe he is going to still remain with your team. Very interesting contract here. Got an article that kind of explains it. I'm just going to read this off right here. Cole almost certainly opts out, Miller wrote, after noting how the 4-year, $144 million player option that encompasses the second half of Cole's contract can turn into a 5-year, $180 million club option if Cole does indeed opt out. So effectively, Gerrit Cole can opt out of his contract for $144 million for 4 years, but then the Yankees then get to go, actually, we're gonna hold on to you, and we're gonna give you that additional year. So for Gerrit Cole, like, as long as Gerrit Cole believes that if he actually did hit free agency, he'd get paid more than $144 million, which he absolutely would.
Right.
This just makes sense for both teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's gonna opt out. Duh, because he should get paid more.
He would.
And then for Gerrit Cole, I mean, well, if you're opting out, you're basically guaranteed that extra, $35 million.
Because then the Yankees are going to go, well, we don't want to lose you.
Exactly.
We're more than happy to have you for 5 years.
Exactly.
So I think Gerrit, like, this just makes sense for both. Well, obviously, the Yankees would probably prefer that he doesn't do it, and they don't have to pay that additional, $36 million. But, I mean, you signed the contract, guys, and, he is well within his right to do so, and he is going to do that. Gerrit Cole, since coming back from the injury, has been really, really solid. I know he had a rough first postseason start, but in the regular season, in 95 innings pitched, he had a 3.41 ERA, and when you look over at the months, like, you can see, like, a clear difference, right? He comes back in June. He's got a 6.23 ERA in 13 innings. Then in July, that drops down to a 4.91. And then in August, this is when you can see he's getting back into form, 1.93, and then a 2.5 in September and October. So, like, it's clear that, like, obviously takes him a little while to get going and ramped up and whatnot. But once he is healthy, he's just the same Gerrit Cole that we all know. So, yeah, from the Yankee standpoint, you obviously got to retain this guy. And from Gerrit Cole's standpoint, just keep getting your bag, son.
Keep going. And I know a lot of people, outside of the Yankees organization might be thinking, like, oh, my God, like, he's going to be signed till he's 39. And,
yes.
However, Gerrit Cole is one of those players that is like a Justin Verlander or a Max Scherzer, where he could pitch to his 40 plus. He takes great care of his body. He hasn't shown any sign of regression because, like you're saying, that's all injury off the top, and he's trying to get ramped up to guys who are already in mid-season form. So for me, he's the exact same Gerrit Cole.
Yeah.
And sure, injury, is that concerning? No, because he barely got injured his whole career. That was like kind of the first big sign of him lately. But he's back, and he's healthy, and he's fine. So for me, it's pretty obvious. And because you're not going to get a pitcher of his caliber for cheaper. Like, you want to retain that kind of value.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you think about, like, for me, the injury's only concerning is if he comes back and then you see the signs of the injury, throughout him
and he's
pitching.
still lingering. Ow, I'm hurting.
But, like, that wasn't the case at all, right?
No.
It's just, like, he is, again, the same guy. So, like, that injury is now ancient history at this point. And other than that, like, we're talking about somebody that every year is going to be, 200 innings. Like, actually, majority of, I'm looking at his baseball reference, most of the seasons he's played, this guy will give you 200 innings. So, yeah, of course you hold on to him. I think that Gerrit Cole is probably a future Hall of Famer at this point. Actually, almost guaranteed now looking at everything. Yeah, like, he's going to get 3,000 strikeouts when it's all said.
Yeah.
This is a future Hall of Famer. That's somebody that's going to be able to go until they are in their late 30s for sure. So from a Yankee standpoint, you obviously need to hold on to this guy. Just keep rolling him out there. He's going to keep getting it done. We'll see if he can do that, though, against the Kansas City Royals in his second postseason start.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be a good one, guys. One more note about the New York Yankees. I thought this was a very interesting quote from Jazz. We got a little bit of drama going on with the Royals fans than Jazz Chisholm Jr.
There's just a lot of drama in general this postseason, man.
God.
I mean, we didn't even talk about it, but the fucking Fernando Tatis Jr. humping the air against the LA Dodgers.
For sure.
Like obviously they're throwing stuff at Profar.
And,
across the board, like there's so much drama going on in the postseason. But yes, of course, with Jazz Chisholm Jr. as well.
Like Jazz, to a lesser extent. I mean, so what happened was he got booed last night in Kansas City. And they came out with this great quote saying nobody, never seen nobody boo a bum. Of course, Jazz being cocky and, loving it. Like, he loves the boos, actually. He was saying multiple times, I love it, I love it, I love it. And the reason why he got booed, I was wondering, why are they booing Jazz Chisholm Jr.? Like, what did he do? He made a quote after the Royals got their first win. He was kind of asked, like, so what do you think? Like, what does this loss mean to you? Like, how are you guys going to bounce back? And Jazz was kind of, this is paraphrase, saying the Bombers' confidence hadn't been dented because Kansas City, quote, just got lucky over those 9 innings. And that was the game that we went live for when they scored 4 runs against their 1. Jazz said they got lucky. Now, when I read that quote, I was like, okay, well, no, they outplayed you in every part of the game. So I don't know how they're getting lucky, but that's just Jazz. And so then that's why he's getting booed. Any thoughts on Jazz's getting booed? Or
you know what? I think that he lives for it, man. Like,
that's
I think
the thing,
he's that
right?
type
That's who
of
he
guy
is.
that like enjoys it. And you know what? I love this version of Jazz Chisholm Jr. Like this was somebody that we were waiting for a long period of time. Since he got to the Yankees and since he's been in that like type of environment, he's actually been performing at a very high level. When he got over to the Yankees, he's got an OPS of 825. He will be with the Yankees for several more seasons, and I think that he is loving this vibe right now. He's got that Juan Soto type of energy. Maybe he doesn't have that Juan Soto type of talent, but still a very solid player in his own right. Now, if you're actually going to boo him, Kansas City, you better pray to God that your team puts up, because you already know he's going to have something to say if he comes up with a big hit or Yankees win or whatever, So you got to have your guys put up.
See, I would compare him to a Fernando Tatis level.
Similarly,
because it's like when Tatis was getting booed, he was like waving it on, again, thrusting his wiener around. Like, he was like loving he was doing tears to the fans. I think Jazz is the same way. We're like, I want him to almost come up with a big hit tonight.
Yeah.
And just soak it all in. I love that. People hate that. Oh, dude, give me more. If it's against my team, I hate them.
Yeah.
But if I'm an outside looking in, like, that's the most entertaining thing about baseball.
Well, speaking of Tatis Jr. and everything like that, before we sign off, there's one more thing that I want to talk about here. Ken Rosenthal wrote an article about the San Diego Padres chastising the boys over there, Machado, Tatis, just the whole vibe in general, and he actually got banned from the Padres dugout in Game 3 Game 4, excuse me. It was. They weren't allowing him. They were saying, "Hell no, you can't come here." I got an excerpt from the article. Listen to this, folks. Ken Rosenthal, what are you thinking? He writes, Machado indeed showed leadership in the dugout, draping his arm around catcher Kyle Higashioka and imploring his teammate to maintain their focus. But his punkish response to Dodgers right-hander Jack Flaherty hitting Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 91.7 mile-per-hour sinker, well, that was Manny being Manny again. Flaherty almost certainly did not hit Tatis intentionally leading off the 6th inning, not with the Dodgers trailing 3-1, yet Machado all but volunteered after the game that his act was retaliatory. When informed that the Dodgers thought he threw the ball hard, he told The Athletic, "Did Flaherty throw the ball hard at our guy?" I don't know what he was doing right there. Just Machado being Machado, I guess, or Manny being Manny. He goes on to say, while Roberts called the third baseman's act unsettling and disrespectful, several Dodgers people said that they thought Machado was trying to send their team a message, not cause injury. Still, Machado's stunt was inappropriate and not particularly smart. And then he goes on to write, and this is where I think the Dodgers fans got really pissed off, and the Dodgers team in general. Machado is far from the Padres' only irritant. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a smiling, dancing peacock. Jurickson Profar is the kid who pulls the fire alarm at school and then asks,
"Who hurt you,
Who,
Rosenthal?"
me?
Yeah, who hurt you, Rosenthal? like you're supposed to be a non-opinionated journalist, and clearly you hate the Padres. Like, this is just a pure attack. Like, the whole Machado thing too. I think you can just throw that away. Like, Machado wasn't trying to hit David Roberts with the baseball.
No.
Like, get over yourselves. Like, oh, David Roberts, like, that was like disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? There was some intent behind that throw. Like, get out of here, man. And, like, yeah, like, look, everybody in baseball responds to your star player getting hit with a baseball, whether it was intentional or not.
Yeah.
Everybody gets involved in that. And will come out and speak and defend their player. Get over yourselves. And then you have to go on and just like Tatis catches a stray, Profar catches a stray. Like, you clearly have biases towards the Dodgers. And yeah, good for you. You shouldn't be in the Padres dugout.
And also, what the fuck is a smiling, dancing peacock?
Dude, that's just so ridiculous.
Like what? Like what? Why? Where did that come from, Ken?
Yeah.
You know, like honestly, like when I first saw like, oh, the Dodgers are, you know, not allowing Ken to be in their dugout, I was like, what's going on here, boys? But like seriously, if this guy's gonna like, and he's doing this, you know, like mid-series against you guys. Fuck this guy,
fuck
you
this
know?
guy.
Are you kidding me? I'm out here trying to win baseball games, and you're calling me a peacock, and you're saying that Profar pulled the fire alarm, and what?
Yeah.
Why? What is the I don't know, man. Like again, like you're right. There must be some type of bias that Ken Rosenthal has against these San Diego Padres, but I'm honestly genuinely happy that like they're putting their foot down and saying, "Nah, screw you, man. Like you shouldn't have to put up with this." I mean, we are technically part of the media, but you know, actions have consequences. And you know, just as a player, if they were to come out and say, you know, fuck that guy. They'd obviously have a consequence to you know, involved with that. Same with you, Ken Rosenthal. You don't have free reign to say everything that you want, big guy, and now you're getting punished for it.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, for those who watch our Blue Jays channel, we crap all over the GM of the Toronto Blue Jays. I know I'll never be in a room interviewing Ross Atkins. That's just what happens.
It is the way of it.
It's the way
you
it
know,
goes.
like there's consequences to the actions. I'm willing to take on those consequences. Ken, you know what? Well, at this point, you don't have a choice because they're not letting you in regardless. But you just burned any bridge that you have with that San Diego Padres front office. So I hope that you got some insiders that know a little bit about them because you aren't going to be breaking any Padres news anytime soon.
You know nothing anymore, Ken. Guys, that is the end of today's Bad for Baseball podcast. We'll be back on Monday when the championship series gets underway, so there should be a lot of stuff to talk about when we go and do that podcast. Until then, guys, we're going to be posting some shorts on our YouTube channel and all of our social media, so be staying tuned. Check those out. And as well, be doing some more live coverage of the championship series on the NL and AL side of things. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button to stay up to date, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, guys. Cheers.